Why are there many Turkic place names in the North Caucasus? Do the inhabitants of the medieval city of Suyunshi really rest in Grozny? Did you know that the Mamluk army, which made the world tremble, was formed from slaves, Kipchuks and Caucasians who were captured? Centuries, perhaps millennia ago, these mountains were inhabited by special peoples. They called themselves Nokchi. According to legend, these are the descendants of the prophet Nuh. In historical sources, they are called Alans, Vaynaks. We are more familiar with the name of the people Chechens. How and when did they settle in this territory? Even historians cannot answer this question for sure. From the 7th century, not to mention an earlier time, the Khazars, followed by Alans and the Golden Horde people, lived and ruled here. One of the main routes of the Great Silk Road passed through this land. The population of the region at different times endured oppression by the Kipchuks, Mongol Tatars, and Emir Timur. Peoples related to the Kazakhs also lived here, and they left their noticeable mark on this land. The Trails of Nomads expedition team arrived in the Chechen Republic to find traces of ancestors. According to our history, they also lived on this ancient land and left a great legacy. This fact is confirmed by both scientists and local peoples. We must investigate all of this. We need scientific evidence, of course. And our task is to find artifacts confirming that this land was once inhabited by our ancestors. Place names, that is, the ancient names of localities, rivers and lakes, can speak about this. In the 10th century, on the site of the Khazar Khaganate, the state of Alan was formed. Peaceful life here did not last long as the Turks invaded. The nomads, using the geopolitical position of that time, set their main course for the advancement to the west. Therefore, part of the territory of Chechnya and Ingushetia came under the rule of the Kipchuks. 3 centuries after the raids of Genghis Khan's troops, the Alans were forced to flee from their homes. Alans originated from the ancient Sarmatians. Their descendants, Ossetians, Kumiks, and Nogais, descended from the Kipchuks, Ingush, and Chechens, who at the beginning of the 20th century began to be called Vaynaks. All these ethnos, their histories, are intertwined in the North Caucasus. To search for Kazakh roots and threads in the Caucasian land, the participants of the scientific expedition Trails of Nomads arrived in Chechnya.
The
area between the Volga and the Dnieper, the Don coast, in ancient times was inhabited by numerous peoples. These are Kumiks, Nogais, Kipchuks, that are the main tribe of Kazakhs, Crimean Tatars. Many of them migrated further west. Some remained on the territory of present-day Russia. The most numerous peoples are the kindred Kumyks and Nogais. Now they live in Dagestan, Chechnya, in the Stavropol territory, in Karachay-Cherkessia. Everywhere there are villages, places of compact residence. Their culture has spread throughout the North Caucasus.
Сондықтан да олардың мәдениеті барлығы түгел солтүстік Кавказға тараған.
Chechnya is a mountainous region. The peculiar natural landscape directly influenced the character of the local people. They are characterized by belligerence, bravery, and courage. The history of this land is filled with numerous bloody battles, the struggle for independence. It is no coincidence that weapons are one of the main symbols of the mountaineers and the connecting link of local peoples. The National Museum of the Chechen Republic unfortunately has not preserved all the artifacts found at different times. In Soviet times, the fewest such finds were made. The available exhibits, which speak of the connection of the medieval Polovitians and Kuman Kipchaks with Chechen culture, mainly relate to military affairs and weapons. In the Middle Ages, weapons were the most international household item. The safety of an entire people depended on such a way of life, when every man is armed and always ready to go into battle. In the Middle Ages, the peoples inhabiting the North Caucasus had weapons, but either it was not progressive enough or it did not have enough strength to resist the enemies, but the fact is that as a result of the Mongol-Tatar invasion of the 13th century, the Alanian civilization was practically destroyed. In 1222-23, most of the Alan kingdom was made up of the ancestors of the present Chechens, the Nak tribes. The capital of the state was the city of Magas, which is located on the territory of the present-day Chechen villages of Alkanjort and Kulari. According to Soviet archaeologists, Alans and Kipchaks fought together against the Mongol-Tatar invaders. According to the history, the Mongols, having united with the Russian princes at Khalkha, repulsed the Polovtsi and Kipchaks. Chechen historians say that Chechen tribes also fought on the side of the Kipchaks. To prevent the scattered mountain tribes from completely disappearing, they were forced to join together in the fight against a common enemy. The troops of the Mongolian commanders Jibek and Subete were unable to defeat the united Alans and Kipchaks. Therefore, they went for a trick. By promising security to each individual ally, they managed to separate the coalition and thus achieved victory. This is stated in the manuscripts of the historian Ibn al-Atir. The enemies, having seized the capital of Alania Magas, completely exterminated all the inhabitants. Each of them lost the right ear. As a result, 270,000 ears were found. Many Kipchak, Chechen children were taken prisoner. They were also sold into slavery in Egypt, where the Mamluk army was formed from them. The Mamluk army was the strongest in the world. Later, when Genghis Khan's grandson Hulagu came, the Mamluks showed their strength. The Mongol army, which had never lost before, was twice defeated by the Mamluks. The backbone of the Mamluk army was made up of the Kipchaks, Chechens, and Georgians. Kipchak and Caucasian dynasties were ruling. It is no coincidence that the strongest army included the steppe Kipchaks and representatives of the mountain peoples. They are similar in their histories, characters. Like the Turks, the Chechens revered the wolf, compared themselves to this predator. One of the Vainak folk songs contains the following lines. On the night when the mother gave birth to a Chechen, the she-wolf had a wolf cub. The mountain people worship horses and love races. This is also similar to the Kazakhs. Honor, dignity, love of freedom, and courage are qualities inherent in the warriors of the two peoples. A very interesting set of armor is presented in our museum. It is related to the hero described in the Chechen legends of Amri Baka. The most interesting thing is the mask with the image of the warrior's face. According to experts in weapons and archaeologists, it belongs to the equipment of the Polovtsi and Kipchaks. This is indicated by the facial features, the shape of the eyes. Similar masks were found in Kipchak villages. The eyebrows and mustache were added later. According to the mythology of the Chechens, the mustache of the Vainaks is directed upwards. Kipchak masks have a mustache directed downwards. According to the legend told to the expedition participants, the owner of this chain mail was a Batir. He was accompanied by 40 warriors with whom he went on a campaign. There he fell in love with a beautiful Georgian woman. The brothers of the prince's daughter could not refuse him and gave their sister, but persuaded her to poison her husband. Knowing that the wine was poisoned, Amri Baka did not refuse the offered treat of his wife, drank and died. Another popular legend is associated with the campaign of Emir Timur. The commander destroyed the Golden Horde, which was also located on the territory of Alania. As a result of invasion, only one village remained untouched. In the mountains of Chechnya, one of such main villages is Yetunkali. There are different opinions about its name. During the campaigns of Emir Timur, several attempts were made to conquer this village, but its inhabitants staunchly defended themselves and fought to the death. Therefore, there is a legend among the people which says that the commander Timur called this place Yetonkal, that is, in translation, a dog's den. In the first half of the 19th century, Azerbaijan Bakikhanov wrote about the fortification Aksak Temurun Kori, that is, the Wall of Lame Timur in the North Caucasus. However, it is unknown whether it was built by order of the commander or by local residents who were defending from the enemy. But it is known that all the villages that hindered the construction of the fortification were destroyed, and the inhabitants were mercilessly killed. Today, watchtowers are a landmark of the North Caucasus. They date back to the 13th, 14th centuries. Genghis Khan's campaigns were heading not only to the west. The Mongol leader conquered Khwarezm and reached the Aravai Peninsula. Then he turned to the north. His path passed through the Caucasian ridges, through the Derbent Pass. It was then that the mountain peoples sounded the alarm and notified the neighboring states of the approaching enemy. Watchtowers played an important role in the timely detection of an approaching threat. The spread of the Turkic culture in this region, in addition to the campaigns of conquest, was also influenced by the development of trade along the Great Silk Road. During excavations of the old city in the village of Mayer Tup in Chechnya, archaeologists found a saber, dagger and axes belonging to the Golden Horde period. According to experts, the weapons were made in the Jochi Uluses and delivered by trade caravans to Mayer Tup. In addition, silver coins with the names of the Khans Ozbek, Janibek, and Khizr were often found in the North Caucasus.
эти степи. Здесь была и ставка, скажем, вот здесь ближе к Тереку была ставка.
Closer to the Turkic was the headquarters of Khan Toktamesh. As we know, at the end of the 14th century, he was defeated in a battle with the army of Emir Timur. This place was the temporary headquarters of the ruler Timur. It is a fertile land with many rivers. It is also possible that there were also Kipchak villages.
И не мудрено, что здесь могли проходить какие-то маршруты кипчакских походов, и в том числе то, что они могли где-то осесть и создать какие-то населенные пункты.
According to some sources, there was the Kipchak city of Suyunshi on the site of the present city of Grozny during the Golden Horde period. Taking advantage of the weakening of the Khazar Khaganate, the Kipchaks moved to the north and conquered part of the lands on which the Alans settled. They settled on the banks of the Sunja River, where the city was later built.
Вообще бытовых памятников, поселений, городищ.
In general, there are several monuments of settlements, fortified settlements, within the boundaries of the modern city of Grozny. One of them is located on the banks of the Sunja River in the Karaozen region, the second in the Kankala tract.
С периодом времени, о котором мы говорим, Сени, более ранее.
Georgian chroniclers wrote that on the banks of the Sunja River there was the headquarters of the Khan of the North Caucasian Polovtsian Suyunch or Sevenj, that is, Khan Suyunshi. In this region, hydronyms of the names of villages are widespread. Some researchers do not exclude that the Polovtsian city was named after the Khan. In addition, the name Suyunshi is still used by the people.
Есть у нас река Сuyunch, Sunja.
We have the Suyunch River. It is also called Sunja. I heard that on the site of Grozny, perhaps a little higher, there was the city of Suyunch Kala. Was still called Grozny Suyunch Kala. Once an article was published in the Republican newspaper Respublika Zharshisi. I read about 17 settlements there, and I immediately translated the meaning of the names of 14 of them. The name of the remaining 3 could not be translated. Apparently, it was an ancient Turkic language.
Из них я расшифровал 14 на своем языке названия. 3 не смог, может там глубокие древнетюркские названия.
Local Turkic-speaking peoples still call Grozny in the old way, Sunja. Today, of course, the city has changed. It has been updated and is developing rapidly. Now, Kazakhs are often mentioned on this land. Kazakh people were first to help in difficult years. More houses were built. Imagine, new houses were built right between the ruins. We were all surprised. Until now, these houses are called Kazakh ones. In 2007, a 60-apartment residential building was solemnly opened in the capital of Chechnya. It was built with funds from the government of Kazakhstan. Therefore, not only in the ancient but also in the modern history of Grozny there is a Kazakh trace. The site of the city is a mosque called the Heart of Chechnya. This structure, erected on the banks of the Sunja River, that is, Suyunshi, is one of the largest mosques in Europe. Its construction was completed in 2008. 10,000 people can read Nomads here at the same time, and so many Muslims can worship in the square in front of the building. The city has changed. Almost nothing remains of the once medieval village. Only the Sunja River remained the same. It is unknown where the inhabitants of Sunja city rest. There is a mention in the sources of this ancient Kipchak city, but there is no information exactly where the burial was located. But the existence of numerous balbals, which were installed on the graves of Kipchak warriors, suggests that the Chechen land contains a lot of unknowns related to Kazakh history.
Вообще кипчакских курганов на территории современной Чечни можно было найти
In general, Kipchak burial mounds on the territory of modern Chechnya can be found in the Shalkovsky and Naur regions, that is, on the left bank of the Turak River. As you know, there are stone statues at the top of the Kipchak barrows. Now many of them have disappeared, so it is difficult in terms of research. They were in the 18th century. Probably the stones were used in construction. Travelers who visited our land in the 14th, 15th centuries wrote that there were a lot of them here.
В 14-15 веке известно, что путешественники, проезжающие через эту территорию, фиксировали их во множестве.
Due to the instability of the situation in the region, at one time many archaeological sites of the North Caucasus were not explored. However, the local residents who met with the participants of the scientific expedition Trails of Nomads told that historical artifacts were often found on their land at different times and in different regions.
Еще я слышал между нашими воинами вот интересная вещь. Сержант Юрти, когда
I also heard an interesting thing from our soldiers. During the construction of the bomb shelter in Serzhen Yurt, when they were digging the ground, a stone statue was found, a balbal. I said then that such a stone was installed on the grave of the Kipchak soldiers.
И в ширину, и в длину, и в конце концов он выкопал балбал, он мне рассказывали.
In general, among the geographical names on the Chechen land, there are a lot of Turkic toponyms and hydronyms. This is due to the age-old relations of peoples, the great influence of the Turks who drove the local tribes to the mountains. Some of the words of the new tribes may have been borrowed by the Turks. All this requires complex scientific research. Scientists believe that all Turkic toponyms are borrowed from the Kipchak language, but still, there are those who classify them as Chechen.
Кумыкский язык на Кавказе был языком межнационального.
Prior to the Russian language, Kumyk language was the language of the interethnic communication in the Caucasus. Historians talk about close relations of the Turks with local peoples. These contacts undoubtedly influenced the culture of the Caucasians. Now, for example, in the Chechen language, there are a lot of words borrowed from the Turks. According to a local journalist who guided the expedition, in addition to place names, Turkic roots underlie a number of assumptions about the origin of some Chechen tribes. And they are made not only on the basis of place names, but a number of scientific studies.
Например, есть у чеченцев, среди чеченцев такое явление, что вот различные тейпы.
For example, Chechens have such a phenomenon. The origin of different tribes and clans is different. There are those who come from the Greeks, Swedes, Germans. Their representatives may not even know this. Even historians are not sure of this, and yet there is such a study. It is quite possible that there are tribes that descended from the Kipchaks.
Как бы можно говорить, что установили.
Of course, solid, comprehensive research is needed to prove the truth of such assumptions. So far, such versions are supported only by the translation of the meaning of geographical names and the initial results of genetic analysis. Therefore, the assumptions put forward cannot be denied either. In addition, there are similarities between some Kazakh and Chechen tribes. For example, these are the Kazakh Argins and the Chechen Irganoi. There is the Argun River, the city of Argun, and a gorge with the same name in Chechnya. So, what does the Kazakh tribe of the Middle Jews Argin have to do with all of this? Perhaps the root of the word Argin and Yerganoi is based on Yerhan, that is, Yergun, courageous Huns. We will talk about this in the next program.